Australia and then through Europe, we're not exclusive into one territory. So with that, you've got 26,000 products and then 100 plus different compliance rules that you've got to follow to get it over the board. They do a little bit of everything. The logistics function sat alongside it, and there was a lot of frustration between logistics and customer service not understanding the logistics part of it and vice versa. So I think the transition to doing a little bit of everything and understanding each function has been really fundamental to changing the way that we work internally.
Welcome to Chain Reaction, the podcast for the supply chain and logistics industry. If you enjoy this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chain Reaction podcast. As always, we talk about everything logistics. And today we have Leanne Parkin as an amazing guest, who is a who's an operations director at Ramsden International. You have been in logistics for quite some time, but very often, and this is the question that I like to ask my guests is, your background is quite interesting. You studied criminology and you did lots of other things. So how did you manage to get into or end up in operations and logistics?
Completely by accident. So my background, my degree was in criminology. I then ended up working for a facilities business whilst I was at university and dropped on lucky with a manager. I then moved into occupational health. And I think throughout my career, what I've realised is it's the people that I like managing. It's building teams. It's that I enjoy. And then I went for an interview with a business that I'm currently working for, Ramsden International, to start heading up their customer service function. And then just through, I think, my own nosiness, wanting to understand the whole business, I just kind of gathered departments as I went. So I got responsibility for the product data team. I've then taken the warehousing, logistics, compliance. So just through my own drive and interest. And I think over time, I've really fallen in love with export in particular. I love the complexity of it. I love the compliance part of it. It's a very odd part of my personality. I think that I just really enjoy complex things that look unsolvable and trying to find a process behind it. And I've been really fortunate with the business that I work for that they've kind of let me do what I do and supported the change as well. So yeah, it's been a transition. I would say occupational health into supply chain is a massive jump. But underneath it all and underpinning it all is the people. It's the people that I like. It's the people that I like watching develop and grow. So yeah, it's been definitely a change, but I can't see me moving out of export and supply chain now. Like, I'm genuinely very passionate about it. I really, really enjoy it. And it doesn't ever stop. No day in this business is ever the same.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned ended up in logistics, because it feels like, well, you actually don't want to get out. But it's quite an interesting. As I want to pick on one of the points that you mentioned. It's quite an unusual career, not in terms of where you've started, kind of overall, but where you started in Ramsden. You said you've started in customer service, because typically the logistics careers that start from somewhere in operations, I don't know, in a warehouse or somewhere as a transport planner, but you've started in the customer operations. That must bring quite a lot of customer focus into what you do. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's been quite a juxtaposition as well, because I think our customer service team is slightly different. So they do a little bit of everything. The logistics function sat alongside it, and there was a lot of frustration between logistics and customer service not understanding the logistics part of it and vice versa. So I think the transition to doing a little bit of everything and understanding each function has been really fundamental to changing the way that we work internally. Because not understanding what the customer wants from a logistics perspective was slowing us down. So not being agile, not being flexible in our approach to what the customer wanted has made that it was difficult. So coming then from a customer service perspective and understanding that actually, if we've not got the customers, we've not got a business. So we've got to find solutions to some of the problems we were having, has really allowed us to shift gear a little bit in terms of what we do. So it is interesting. You do definitely see it from a different perspective. But I also think the customer service at Ramsden's is very much intertwined with every part of our function. So everybody is very customer focused. We all know that at the end of the day, the goods have got to arrive with a customer. They've got to be in one piece. They've got to be on time, and they've got to be the standard that they've come to expect from us. So yeah, it was definitely interested in making the move, but I do think from an education perspective internally, it's changed probably the way that we look at how integral logistics is to the customer service experience.
Very, very interesting. Absolutely. So one of the things that I also wanted to explore, because we were talking about Ramsden International, and the complexity of the business. So you are an exporter, the wholesale exporter of goods made in Britain, and you have a massive portfolio of products as a 26,000 SKUs. That actually, to anybody who's in the business, that actually means that quite a lot. So how do you manage that? Well, first of all, can you talk maybe a little bit? You start with like the overall business model. What does kind of Ramsden overall does, and then how that complexity is being managed?
Yeah, so we buy from four main suppliers at the minute. So we buy from a UK wholesaler, and then we get specialty ranges from different suppliers, and we export Waitrose products as well. So supply comes in from four main suppliers basically, and then we manage the export of those products. So we've not got necessarily direct relationships with manufacturers, although that is changing. We've joined Subro recently, so we've now got access to a bigger range of products for pallet deals and things, which we're starting to see more customers wanting. But with that, and the more suppliers you get sending stock into the business, the more complicated it becomes. 26,000 SKUs is wild. And we're not in one or two markets. We go everywhere. So Middle East, Africa, down to Australia, and then through Europe. We're not exclusive into one territory. So with that, you've got 26,000 products and then 100 plus different compliance rules that you've got to follow to get it over the border. So it's wild. I don't know how to describe it any other way, because it's all complicated. Like food, it's not a non-restricted product. It's not like we can just send it in and hope for the best. Like there's so many regulations governing everything to do with food in every country, and increasingly so as well. I would say it's getting more complicated worldwide, in terms of the expectations from consumer.
So if I ask you not to use the word Brexit or everything, what keeps you awake at night?
Yeah, everything's really hard not to say everything, isn't it? Brexit, not so much anymore, although it has its moments. For me, it's my worst fear is when I get a phone call saying there's a container stuck. So it's left the UK, it's hit a border somewhere, and something has gone wrong somewhere in the supply chain. So whether that's we've not completed the right paperwork, or there's something on a product that we've not picked up. So if you think sending into the Middle East, we've missed a picture of a pig on a product, or there's reference to a sausage, anything like that can hold a whole container. So when you get those phone calls saying the container's stuck, they are sleepless nights until that container's free to go. And we are very good at fixing things and kind of understanding the import regulations at the other side. But yeah, there's nothing worse when you send a product out and that container's left. And sometimes you get a gut feel, I would say. So sometimes there is a feeling like, I'm not sure that that's gonna hit right when it gets to the other side. But yeah, the containers getting stuck or trucks getting stuck at borders, it keeps me up repeatedly. And then unfortunately for my team, keeps them up as well, because I'm like, we need to fix this quickly. Yeah. So yeah, that is the one.
And I understand, and I can imagine how painful that and how stressful that might be. Interestingly, where do those containers stuck? At an exit at the border here in the UK, or at a point of entry into whatever region?
Point of entry normally.
Typically,
it's point of entry. Occasional trucks down at the UK border into France, but generally it's once it gets to the import side. So it can be something as simple as, I'm trying to think of an example. So into Europe, vet's missed a signature off one of the pages and everything else is perfect, but they've missed one signature, and then that holds the whole load. And then depending who the customer or the customs agent is at the other side, it's how good they are at kind of arguing the point as to whether that's going to come back. Going into the Middle East, it's often things that we miss. So images on product that are banned in territory. So every territory is slightly different. So in some markets, you can't send love hearts, for example, on packaging. So we have to check all the packaging before we export it. And there's been occasions where we've missed an image, and then it's kind of what we're going to do with that stock. Can we get it destroyed? Can we do something else with it? Will they allow it to clear? So yeah, it's generally at the import border, and it's always something really minor that we might not have seen before, or we get it where regulations change where goods are on the water. So Q8 at the moment, they've put some new food standards in around goat pox and cholera. So we're seeing bans on product going in from Bulgaria, for example. So we can't send any product from Bulgaria. So then it's a matter of us going through our 26,000 products, checking the origin of all the products, make sure there's nothing from Bulgaria, and then banning it to make sure we're not sending it into Q8. And if we are, how are we sending it in, and what declarations do we need to make sure that they know it's safe to enter? So yeah, it's a bit of everything.
No, and I understand, and I just really feel the stress and the headache that brings. So so can we just use the dreaded Brexit topic? I appreciate that for the exports into the Middle East and Africa and the Far East, obviously business as usual. But in terms of the Europe, so what kind of shock have you guys experienced when this happened?
I'm still having hot sweats thinking about it again.
Yeah, without crying, please.
Yeah, not weeping at my desk. So, yeah, I mean, Brexit was just, that entire period of time is just a blur. So we'd prepared. So we'd gone worst case scenario, and worst case scenario to us was a no deal. So no deal, and everything would come into play. I can remember New Year's Eve that year, sitting and starting to read through the deal and what they'd agreed to, and trying to unpick what we would need to do. And I was like, oh no, this is the worst case scenario, where we've got a deal, but it's not a deal and no one's really clear on what's happening. So what we saw initially when Brexit first happened was not a lot. And what we expected was the French border would be the problem. But actually what we were finding was goods were clearing relatively easy into France. But then once it was hitting borders in Spain and Poland, they were whacking us with a whole other set of regulations that were like, what is this, and where is this coming from? So every border was asking for different pieces of paper, and there wasn't any one single piece of clarity that said, right, okay, so if you're exporting a packet of crisps, this is the paperwork that you're going to need for it. And I went on a lot of webinars and asked a lot of questions, and I think what had been missed as part of that deal was businesses like us. So businesses that are exporting, like we specialise, our customers can buy one case of everything. So if we've got a customer that wants to buy 26,000 different products, they can. But with that come 26,000 different bits of paper, it feels like at the moment. So the first 6 months of Brexit were a challenge. An interest, I mean, for me, absolutely fascinating. I used to drive my boss mad because I'd be phoning like, oh, have you seen this? We need to do this. We need to look at this. So for my brain, great. But for the actual business, an absolute headache. But I think what we did really well is we moved really quickly. So we set up an entity in Europe. So we set up a business in Europe that allowed us to export as Ramsden International, and we sold to Ramsden Europe effectively. So what we did is simplified all the paperwork. So we do a lot of groupage loads. So we could have 26 different customers on one truck. What we did was look at all the paperwork we needed to do and said, right, okay, so actually a lot of our customers buy very similar products, so we'll need very similar paperwork. Let's sell to ourselves, get it into the free market, and then move it from there. So we're still following all the regulations we need to follow to get it through the EU border, and currently at France is where we clear through. But then once it's in Europe, we've got free movement. So what we're not doing is hitting border after border as we're trying to transport it through. And that, I mean, it did not work perfectly. I remember one week there were 6 or 7 trucks coming back with various different bits and pieces of paperwork that they were saying weren't right. I remember sending a container into Malta for the first time, and we sent 700. It was 700 pieces of paper we sent with this container to clear it. So that, from going from nothing to everything pretty much overnight, has been an adjustment. But touch wood, we've not had any stuck trucks at the EU border for, it's going on 18, 19 months now. The problem with Brexit is it's never static. So just as you kind of got through, you get through, right, okay, these are all the products that need the vet certificates. These are the things that need private attestations. You get through that move. And now they're hitting us with things like the European deforestation regulations, where we need to know the geo-coordinates of cocoa beans, for example, which, again, for a business like ours is a wild change again. So where people are talking about SPS rules easing, yeah, they are, and it's great. And in a couple of years, when hopefully that comes into effect and it simplifies what we're already doing, that's great. But I think for a lot of exporters, we've kind of navigated that. And while it will make it easier for us, it's now the next thing and the next thing, and you can just
Mm.
kind of see it coming over time and time again. That it's never, it's just a goalpost that's forever moving. And as a business, we've got to continuously be prepared for what they're about to do. So
Yeah,
they,
it's a moving target now. I completely understand, and obviously, the legislators never sleep, and then they
yeah,
always come up with different ways of. I'm not saying that how to make the life difficult, but how to kind of regulate various aspects. Obviously with the best of intentions, but
yeah,
unfortunately, it's us who feel the pain. What the thing that actually kind of strikes me here. So obviously through all that process and through all that pain, you've built quite a lot of expertise in the house, in the business, among people with in terms of how things are done, how to look at things, how to process things, how to rectify problems, how to address all of those challenges. So there's quite a lot of kind of the processes and the people and the knowledge that has been built in the organization. But what part does technology play? Because I would feel that it would be nearly impossible to manage all of that complexity that you mentioned times 26,000 SKUs.
yes. I mean, and everyone that I work with will hate me for saying this, but we've got a decent export system, so they won't agree with it. When you're working on it every day, it's obviously causes mass frustration. But we've got a system that allows us to manage 26,000 products. It's an export system. It's not the newest. It's old, but the business was small. And we've adjusted it and changed it, and they're very flexible in terms of what we need to do. So it's huge. Technology is the future, and it's the future, particularly for supply chain, because we spend a lot of time focusing in on little bits of things that actually technology could do for us, and actually our time could be better spent negotiating better rates, spending more time out with the customers, kind of not doing the fiddly little admin tasks. So I think we've got some work going on internally at the moment, looking at what our AI strategy looks like from a business perspective. What can we use in technology to take away some of those? And they are boring, mundane tasks. How does technology allow us to get rid of those pieces of work to focus on the stuff that's genuinely important to our customers? That said, you can't go wrong with an Excel spreadsheet with some stuff. You can't manage 26,000 products on it, but it does play a part in it. But yeah, definitely our export system, but also the team that we've got working behind it. So our team understanding, and don't get me wrong, we can't know the ins and outs of every single product that we sell off the top of our head, but we can look at a product and think that's probably going to have reference to alcohol in it, for example. So if you get a tonic water, 9 times out of 10 on the back of it, it'll say pair well with gin. Well, you're not sending that into the Middle East, so you pick it up and you flag it, and then it can't get onto our customers' orders, so it doesn't cause the problem at the other side. But yeah, technology is huge across the board, and what's been nice to see as well, because we have some months 80 plus containers going out, tracking those for our customers. So what we're seeing from a lot of our logistics providers now is tracking platforms. So we're not having to wait for them to update us on delays or if containers are coming in late. So they're playing a huge part, and seeing suppliers move with the times and moving us to technology has been a massive change for us. So what used to be hours worth of work for our logistics teams, tracking every single container, understanding where it is, it's now a platform that shows us exactly where all our containers are. And also for some of them, AI predicts what the likely ETA is going to be based on traffic and wind and everything else that I would not ever feign to understand to pretend to understand. But yeah, technology is huge now, and it's going to get bigger. And I genuinely, without the systems we've got, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today. We wouldn't cope.
You are listening to Chain Reaction. This podcast is brought to you by Phlox, the leading marketplace for the supply chain and logistics industry. Visit phlox.is to find out how you find the perfect supplier or make your services available to prospective buyers. Thanks for tuning in. Now back to the show.
Oh, it's very interesting. Well, very interesting that you mentioned that Excel spreadsheet can still do a good job. Yes, absolutely. I think compared to AI, Excel spreadsheet doesn't invent stuff,
Yeah.
and AI sometimes does. So there's quite a lot of technical complexity there. So speaking of AI, I had a podcast with a company that actually focuses on providing that AI based tech for
Right.
filling up and checking the the documentations, because the technology, the platform that you mentioned, it sounds like it's the platform that actually allows you to keep all the records and getting absolute clarity with all of the certifications and the signatures and so forth that will allow you for effective filing. And I also can imagine that some of the markets that you're working with are not accepting electronic filing. They sometimes need paperwork.
Yeah,
So you must have some massive printers as well.
Yeah, the Middle East love a piece of paper and they love a stamp and a signature, and I can't see it. The only time that changed actually was during COVID. So they started accepting some of the documents electronically, which was nice, and it felt like a step change, but they've very quickly gone back to stamps and paper in the post.
So in terms of then the type of either suppliers or the customers that you deal, how you differentiate, how you differentiate the level of effort and the level of customer service, if we touch on that, based on the size of the counterparty.
So it varies.
So it could, yeah.
So our customers are really varied. So we go from serving big international supermarkets right down to kind of local mom and pop stores. So if you go on holiday to Spain and you go to a corner shop and you've got a hankering for some Cadbury's fingers, for example, the chances are we've probably exported it into Europe. So we go to kind of one-man bands. It varies by customer. So what you find with some of the bigger retailers, they've got import arms, so they understand import because they're already importing products. So actually the services they need from us are more around ranging British products, so understanding what sells well in the UK, and that's what they want to take to their country and take into their supermarkets. Whereas the smaller stores that maybe have never imported before, so one of our sales guys has gone into market and they've met somebody and they're really interested in one of the brands that we supply. They need a lot more hand holding in terms of, right, okay, so this is how we're going to export it to you, this is how we're going to import it. So actually sometimes it's the smaller customers that need more input from us at the start until we get them up and running than the bigger stores, because the bigger stores are likely already importing. In terms of the effort we put in terms of customer service, it doesn't change. So if you're a massive supermarket, you're going to get the same level of service that you get if you're a one-man band. That's not how we kind of work with it. It's what the sales team's job a lot of the time is understanding the capability of the customer and then understanding what part of the services they need. So some customers are great at logistics. They'll use their own supply chain. They'll come in, they'll pick it up from us and we don't see it again. Other customers will handhold it right until it reaches them in store, with partners delivering it into them. So it really varies, to be honest, based on the capability of the customers at the other side. But that's what the sales team are there for, is to then feed it all back into us of, right, okay, I'm going to need this, 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 and this for this customer. Without that, we wouldn't have a clue.
Okay, no, it's very interesting, and that brings me to another thought that I had. As you mentioned sales teams and you mentioned customer service teams, and I can imagine that a lot of the business is still people doing business with people, not necessarily companies doing business with companies. So there's a lot of kind of human touch and the human interaction is involved. What I would like to ask you is, though, in my kind of experience, logistics and operational sector is hugely male dominated. So how do you find being a lady working in that sector? How do you find that kind of interactions? And not just simply male dominated; it's also quite conservative in its approaches and the way that it's the sector is doing things. So how do you find that environment, and what are the challenges that it brings?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to watch because I've gone from probably a really female-dominated industry in terms of occupational health to then a very male-dominated export supply chain industry. I think it very much varies and it's changing, is what I would say. So in the time that I've been doing it, there's more females. There's more females in leadership roles in supply chain and logistics. But I do think men and women fundamentally think differently to one another. And I think that's an advantage. I think women are a lot, no disrespect to any males, but I do think generally we're more empathetic with a lot of things. And I do think we're a lot more controlled than people give us credit for in terms of those kind of high pressured, having to make decisions and having to be quick. So it's been quite interesting. I think where I see it most, to be honest, is in the warehousing. So I manage our warehouse. I have contractors coming on site for work that we need doing. And the default position is always to talk to my operations manager, who's male. And I kind of have to step in and go, that's fine. He's not signing this off though. So you're going to need to explain it to me in a way that, one, you think I can understand, but also in a way that I'm going to get sign off for this from kind of my leadership team. So it's definitely changing. I think we just work differently. I think that our brains work differently, and I think that's an advantage. I think the better the mix you get of male, females in this kind of industry and in this environment, the better it will be for everybody, because we approach things in very different ways a lot of the time. So it's definitely been a change. It's very, I don't care for golf, so I don't want to go on a golf day. But I get invites for golf in events, and I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm interested in doing. So it is still very much like you feel sometimes like you're missing out on some of those relationship building experiences because I don't want to go and play golf in the rain. That does not sound like fun to me. I'd be really bad at it. So there is still that stigma attached to it, and it does still happen. Like I still get the invites for golf days, and I think maybe I should learn how to play, but I really don't want to. So yeah, I think that's one part of it that is still very much stuck. But you are seeing more females in leadership roles, and that's really nice to see. And I think for the younger generation as well, because like we mentioned, you fall into logistics, you fall into supply chain, and I genuinely think if someone, when I'd been at school or college or university, had come and spoke to me about supply chain, it's probably a move I would have made career-wise sooner, because it does work to my way of working. Kind of complexity and processes and relationship building is the stuff that I like doing, and I think I'm probably quite good at. So yeah, it's moving, probably not moving as quick as we'd want it to, but nothing ever does, and it will change and it will get better, I'm sure.
Yeah, true. No, I'm 100% with you on the right and healthy balance is absolutely important here, because yeah, exactly as you said, we think differently, and some parts of the business are extremely kind of clear cut, logical, and some other parts of the business are extremely empathetic and personal
Yeah.
relations. And we both have our strengths and our weaknesses, and the healthy balance is only bring is only make the whole thing much better. So what then kind of in terms of the then communication kind of challenges, what do you find is most kind of frustrating? What would you change in terms of kind of the way that people communicate? Because again, we're touching on technologies again, and elements of the what our platform does is actually this the kind of the puts a lot of the communication into a more kind of a direct channel of working between the parties, rather than sending Excel spreadsheets back and forth via email and then having phone calls. So it is for a variety of other reasons. Do you think that the communication, the challenge and the channels and the ways that we communicate and what are the record keeping is happening in the background is also needs improvements, or what would you change in that space?
Oh, 100%. I think everybody uses different platforms, different elements need different parts of it. I think if you think of just trying to export products alone, none of the systems talk to each other. So you're manually having to push things into various places, and you just kind of think, God, it'd be great if you've got everything in one place that pushes everything through together. So yeah, I think there's always got to be an element of that picking up the phone, because you've got to build those relationships, and it's the relationships that make businesses work in my mind. But there is other bits of communication. I don't need 30 emails confirming me shipping rates, for example, and backwards and forwards. I just want to know the cheapest and quickest vessel. That's what I want to know a lot of the time, and that it's going to arrive on time and it's reliable. But yeah, I think if there was one thing that you could change, it would be a platform that does a little bit of everything, and it's pushing everything in the right place, so that you're not having to manually do. It's time, isn't it? It's people's time, and it's you want computers to do the bit that is not that interesting and it's a bit dull. We don't really like doing it. You just want technology to handle that, and then as a human, you want to make those human connections and talk to people and understand why things are doing what they're doing, and look at processes and stuff. So yeah, I think technology is and will play a huge part, and I think the system support behind it has got to move along with it. And I would say we're probably a little bit behind other industries that I've worked in terms of the capability that everybody's got to do what we want it to do.
Nice. Yeah, well, this is very much the kind of the ethos of the platform that we're building. But what you also bring up is the because you understanding and working with other people, with other countries in other regions, kind of the other element of the kind of the human side of things is we exporting kind of the British food. Maybe not as exclusive as Jeremy Clarkson does for his for his pub, that everything has to be grown in the UK, which has kind of 100% applaud. But we don't grow tea, for example. So which kind of or coffee. So one of the things that some of the things that you guys do. So how do you find that element of the human side of things that we actually, it's British made, it's British taste, it's British flavored, it's British, I don't know, packaged, and that kind of stuff. So how do you find that?
I think what we see is, so what the UK is really good at and what our customers respect is the quality of British food, and it's the quality and it's the standards that we bring with it, and thankfully they are being maintained. So there's a standard element, and that's what customers buy into. We've also got expats, and sometimes you want a Yorkshire tea. You don't want a local. It is what it is. Like, there's a reason British people take tea bags on holiday, and it's because we like a proper Yorkshire cup of tea. So I think there's that part of it. But what we also do really well is we really get behind things. So when you see the World Cup, we have football packaging. So PepsiCo did a great campaign a couple of years ago when the World Cup was on and all the packaging changed. Things like the Queen's birthdays and biscuit tins change. People buy into that abroad because whatever you think of the royal family, like, people respect that part of our culture and kind of what they represent. Maybe not so much at the minute, but it is a big thing for us, and I think that's what people buy into. So there's two elements to it. There's the British standards, there's the British culture, which I think people look at, and if you've not been to the UK, obviously living here, it doesn't feel that exotic, but it's different. It's different to what other countries have. But then there's also the part of it that we have got very high food standards, and the food we produce, contrary to I think what people think in some areas around British food. Like, we've got a really thriving food scene in the UK. Not just from an export perspective, but there's food markets popping up all over. It's really becoming a big part of our identity. So I definitely think we get behind things. We've got a quality element to it. And then there's also that if you're an expat living abroad, it's that kind of taste from home. Tea doesn't taste. So Yorkshire tea does not taste. It's better. It's a better cup of tea.
100%. Interesting point. When sort of do any of your customers require any customization of products? Is that 26,000 SKUs? Is that part of complexity where you need to customize the packaging, which fundamentally creates you a different SKU, whilst the underlying product is exactly the same?
So we don't do any customization in terms of, we don't change packaging or anything like that. But what we do is relabel ingredients and nutrition. So our warehouse functionality, when we're sending things, products into the Middle East, we've got to translate all the ingredients, all the nutrition, storage ingredients, storage instructions, etc. Have got to be translated into Arabic. So we've got Arabic translators that work for us. They translate all the packaging ingredients, that gets stored in our system and then prints out on a label in the UK. So the warehouse will then sticker that product while maintaining the integrity of the packaging, because obviously what you don't want to be doing is buying something and it's got a massive whacking white sticker on the front of it without the branding is still really important. So that, in terms of customization, that's what we do. So yeah, it's 26,000 different SKUs, but then potentially translated into 50 plus languages sometimes, depending on where it's going into and the compliance requirements when it hits the other side. But yeah, that's all we do. We wouldn't change packaging or anything because it's not our brand.
Right. Fascinating, and it's a fascinating conversation that we had. There's lots of amazing topics that Leanne, you brought up, and I felt your pain about Brexit, and I understand the massive complexity the dealing with the complexity and the challenges and compliance and all of that. So this is the one question I like asking people towards the back end of kind of the podcast. It's like, if you had a magic wand that can deliver you on one particular wish within the business or supply chain logistics or legislation or something. So what would that be? What is the biggest pain that you would love solved instantaneously, if possible?
I mean, it would be Brexit for us. It's a really boring answer,
Get
but
back in.
yeah, going back in time and getting rid of those stupid red buses about the NHS, like, and redoing that entire campaign, like, yeah, that would be a game changer for us, because it's hard, because the complexities brought new customers to us, because that's what we're good at, that's what we do really well. But also, it's just made it so difficult to get anything done and moved and through the border. So yeah, I think it would be that. Maybe better technology, maybe one platform that did everything. So your customs entry, your CHEDs and everything's all just in one place. But I do think Brexit would, reversing that decision, if I could go back in time, I would be campaigning on the other side, telling you. That's what I would change.
Well, certainly getting back in, or getting any kind of a trade deal that will. I think one of the challenges, at least fix it, stop moving the goalposts. That would be a good start. I'm sure. At least, like, when everything is settled, at least you can deal with the complexity and you standardize with the use of tech, and just, okay, well, at least you know how it works. But if it changes all the time, it just, that what gives people a lot of sleepless nights.
Or even just stop doing it on the 31st of December every year, because it really ruins everyone's New Year's Eves when we're reading policy. They always do it. It always changes on the 31st of December. And then you just go back into the new year with a plethora of more things that you've got to try and understand what they're actually wanting from us. So yeah, maybe just changing it so it doesn't happen on the 31st of December would be a start.
And on that thought, we are now in the middle of November, but so December is knocking on the door already. So on that thought, thank you very much, Leanne, for joining us on the podcast. It was definitely a great one, and we've touched upon a lot of very interesting, highly complex, and unfortunately some painful topics. But thank you very much. You've been a wonderful guest. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Chain Reaction. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have a story or insights to share from your sector, we'd love to hear from you. Simply reach out to us through the links in the description. See you next time.